Imagine being able to watch every twist, turn, and turbo boost of Formula One, but live on your iPhone, Apple TV, or Mac. Starting 2026 in the US, that reality comes from one company, Apple. It's a bold move, marrying cutting edge tech, global sport, and Apple's massive ecosystem. But make no mistake, this isn't about speeding cars, it's a high stakes bet on content, loyalty, and recurring revenue. Hi guys, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Mubassir, and on today's episode of Business Acumen with MMS, we will break down Apple's deal with F1, the value it carries for both the organizations, what risks it carries, and whether this bet on sports streaming is a paradigm shift for the industry at large. This will definitely be an exciting one, especially if you're a fan of either F1 or Apple, so you do not want to miss this one. Stick around, we've got an exciting episode lined up. In October 2025, Apple and F1 signed a 5-year exclusive US broadcast deal under which all F1 races, qualifying sessions, and sprint events will stream solely via Apple TV beginning in 2026. Under the agreement, Apple reportedly offered roughly $150 million per year, which is more than the previous deal F1 had with ESPN of around $90 million a year. Apple will not just stream races, it plans to integrate F1 content across its ecosystem. So news, maps, sports apps, music, and more. In short, Apple is transforming F1 from a niche motorsport subscription into a mainstream, widely accessible entertainment product delivered via devices millions already in use. So you have to understand the intention behind this. This is not simply a $1 trillion market cap company does not simply rely on a single product or service. They rely on integrating an entire ecosystem. They offer an integrated ecosystem where they will try to pull in customers from different angles. And then the whole idea is that the ecosystem itself is so attractive and it lures the customers. Once it lures them in, it then locks them in, keeps them in. And that is where the real value lies. That we will talk over the course of this video. Later on in the video, we will talk about the lifetime value of customers. Some deals may not be profitable on face value, but it is in reality the lifetime value of how the companies are able to generate value through other revenue sources from the same customers. That is where the brilliance lies behind such deals. Let's look down further and see what's more under the hood. So why does this deal make sense for Apple now? There are multiple layers. First, diversification and subscription growth. Apple's growth engine has increasingly shifted from hardware, the iPhone or the Mac, to services whereby they offer Apple TV, music, fitness, etc. Live sports gives a huge subscriber retention hook. Sports, especially global ones like F1, deliver regular appointment-style viewing that keeps users engaged. Over a 5-year cycle, loyal fans translate into steady, recurring revenue and lower churn. That is the understanding behind it. You want to attract customers and they might be engaged elsewhere. Sports is one of those spaces. But the idea is to have them on the Apple ecosystem, whether they're coming in from Apple Music, from Apple TV, whether they're user of the Mac or an iPhone. But the idea is if F1 is the binding force behind different customers, you want to get them onto that ecosystem, because once you have an iPhone, you might be tempted for an AirPod. Once you have a Mac, you might be integrated for maybe you would definitely be using the iCloud. So there's beautiful integration between different products and services Apple is offering. And the essence behind this idea is if someone is engaged with F1, first let's just bring them into the ecosystem and then let's put the complete array of possibilities of products before them and try to expand what share of wallet or share from their pocket they're putting in, giving to Apple. Yeah. Second, global brand and audience reach. F1's US fan base has surged in recent years, partly due to F1's global expansion and popularity among younger demographics, a valuable acquisition segment for Apple. By offering F1 via Apple's ecosystem, Apple increases brand stickiness among younger, tech-savvy viewers, users likely to consume more services, buy accessories, and stay within Apple's hardware software loop. Now, this is an interesting area that Apple is looking at. The You're looking at different generation of customers. You had your boomers, your millennials, your Gen Zs, Gen Alphas. Every generation has a different dynamic about them, a different vibe about them. The younger generations coming in, they're being born in the digital world. They're growing up with your social media platforms, your smartphones, the internet. That is where they live. That is where their comfort zone lies. Yeah. So the idea is Apple wants to bring those customers in, and F1, it's seeing F1 as one of those avenues through which it can hook in those customers and then build on it, then offer them. And once they're on the say for example, a user is watching an F1 live stream on an iPhone, and they seem to like something that is happening on there, and they share a screenshot across their socials, or they're listening to their favorite music on Apple Music, and it happens to be one of those Hans Zimmer creations, something from the F1 movie or the F1 track. Different touch points to engage the customer, different touch points to win their attention. But the end objective, the essence being, just bring them back into the entire ecosystem, and the idea is build on top of it. Once you have the customer on board, Apple is clearly looking to pitch them more of its services, more of its products, and to build on the value that they'll be generating from each customer. Now, the third reason, they leverage the ecosystem and cross-platform engagement. Apple doesn't just stream the races through Apple News, Maps, Music, Fitness Plus, and push notifications like your leaderboard, your live updates. It creates a 360 engagement loop, converting a few races per year to year-round interaction. This creates network effects. The more integrated F1 becomes in Apple's ecosystem, the harder it is for users to leave. So the idea is not just that you're just looking at that 2 hour race window, whether you're a Lando Norris fan or a Verstappen fan. The idea is not just to engage the user for that 2 hour race itself. The idea is to go far beyond it. There are notifications coming out of it. There are soundtracks related to whether it is an F1 movie, or there is soundtrack, whether the theme of F1 itself. Different music engagement, different news around it. So not so long back, there was scandal around Red Bull. So sharing news around all those instances, whatever is the talk of town on social media, be it X, Facebook, Instagram, make the users part of that conversation, make Apple customers part of that conversation. And the idea is Apple does not want them to go elsewhere to engage with their favorite sports. It wants to offer them all the different touch points to engage and immerse in their sports through various touch points available within their own platform, within their own ecosystem. And therein lies brilliance within this move. And I think the scale at which Apple operates, it has the luxury of offering different options, be it in the hardware space, be it in the software space. It has the luxury of presenting a vast array of different avenues to not only engage the customer, but to offer them an immersive experience and to keep them hooked and engaged so that they keep coming back. So it's not just about one race, not just about a second race. Locking in a 5-year deal definitely has a lot of thought behind it. And this is most definitely a very interesting prospect that is shaping up. And I, for one, am personally very excited to see how the sports streaming world in general shapes up. Because on one end, you're also seeing Netflix. The Netflix will be streaming UFC fights. It will be streaming boxing live matches. So sports streaming at large within these tech companies is becoming an avenue to it's an avenue to engage customers through an emotional connect. Sports has an emotional connect about it, and it is tapping into that emotional element and it is bringing in consumers with those emotional connects, with that passion, with that drive. And the idea being that if that immersion, real-time immersive experience happens, it can be a bond that creates a longer lifetime value for Apple or other companies that then tap into this sports streaming, not just to generate revenue from that opportunity itself, but to actually leverage on it to then tap into those same customers for multiple different revenue streams. But the idea is they're acquiring customer through this. That is the exciting and interesting prospect about it, that this sports streaming is not just the all in all. It is simply a foot in the door. It is simply, or to put it more accurately, a foot into the customer's locket or a hand into the customer's wallet. And the idea is they'll then want to get more out of it. And especially with the passion and the drive and the excitement, the emotional connect that sports bring with it. If you can establish that, if these companies, in particular for this case, Apple, can create that bond, that trust level, that loyalty with these customers, this may well be a masterstroke of a deal. But there's more to come. Stick around. And if you're liking this content and if you're finding this intriguing, drop your appreciation, drop a like on this video and show your appreciation. And let's move forward. There's a whole lot more. Stick around till the end, and let's see more about this deal, how this unravels. Let's explore it together. Now, streaming platforms are in a race to offer exclusive content. By securing F1, a global motorsport with a passionate fan base, Apple gains a unique differentiator versus rivals. Now, the relative to the high cost of producing scripted content, a sports rights deal like this gives a recurring content stream with a loyal following. This is an interesting prospect, because you're looking at Netflix, you've got your Amazon, your HBOs, your Walt Disneys out there, and there's this constant race to capture content, to create new content. And what sports streaming offers these users is content that will stream live, that will already be there, that does not need production. But more importantly, besides the fact that it will give content, sports itself will be a content, it will be a content, as I talked about earlier, it will be a content that will bring audience that will be emotionally engaged, passionately engaged, audience that will bring their drive, their excitement, their enthusiasm with that connect. And that is the perfect opportunity to engage with that customer. Imagine a Champions League final, your favorite football team playing at the 90th minute at stoppage time, chasing that last minute winner. That sort of content, the emotional connect that carries, the hopes and dreams that every sports fan has with respect to their favorite team winning every match, winning titles. Imagine the opportunity to then offer these customers relevant merchandise, relevant accessories specific to their teams. With that emotional connect, that passion, that drive, then the commerciality aspect of it makes conversions a whole lot more likely. And you then understand the genius move behind this deal, because it's not just, as I mentioned earlier, especially in the build up towards this video, this is a whole lot more than just content streaming. This is about building loyalty. This is about winning attention. This is about hooking in customers, and not just bringing them inside an ecosystem, but to entice them and tempt them to stay there, to spend there, and to be loyal buyers of all the different revenue streams that Apple is generating here. Now, while the business side of it all seems very exciting and interesting, let's have a look at the numbers and what sense do they make. The deal is roughly valued around $750 million over a 5-year time horizon, which without a doubt is a large investment, but for Apple, it is feasible given its global cash flows and scale. Now, you have to understand that Apple TV subscription is a modest $12.99, roughly $13 a month, which when scaled across millions of viewers still makes profitability and break even a possible likelihood. The main upside, as I mentioned earlier, lies not in immediate profits, but in the lifetime customer value. Each retained subscriber likely spends across services, stays within Apple's hardware-software ecosystem, and becomes a potential repeat revenue source. Now, on the flip side, from Formula One's perspective, transitioning from traditional sports TV to streaming removes the distribution bottlenecks in the US, potentially increasing viewership, sponsorship value, and global brand reach. So this is a mutually beneficial deal for both the parties here, both F1 and Apple. You have to understand, on one hand, Apple is getting engaged younger audiences, tech savvy audiences on its platform because they are already fans of F1. While on the other hand, F1 on face value, they make more money. $90 million a year from ESPN versus 150 million from Apple. Definitely a win there. But the Apple global scale at large as well, F1 has been rapidly growing as a sport in its popularity. The younger audience fan base, especially from your Netflix shows like Drive to Survive, the recent movie on F1 with Apple, uh, they're building a hype around it. This is a rapidly growing sport, and F1, not just with the upfront incremental value that it captured from its deal, the larger contract size it captured from Apple because of this deal, but it is tapping into a $1 trillion market cap company, the user base, the global reach of Apple. And when Formula One news and music will be showcased on iPhones and MacBooks all around the world, that is a big win for F1 in terms of its scaling aspirations, because F1 wants to be a global sport. And who knows, maybe in a few years, F1 might be as large as something like football. It certainly is showing the promise to be up there, but we'll have to see whether it can make up the numbers to get to that point. To quickly look into what success will look like, Apple will gain millions of new or reactivated subscribers via F1's global reach. Now, but for Apple, they will able to cross sell into other services, as I talked earlier as well: Apple Music, fitness, news, etc. And this will then reduce the churn, and it will offer Apple more recurring revenue. That recurring revenue, this is the beauty about subscription models. It's recurring revenue, it is predictable revenue, and especially when that recurring revenue is coming through something like sports streaming, the idea of churn is far likelihood. Yes, there is definitely this risk that when the season ends, the subscribers might go away, but that is something where Apple has to then work on increasing its overall value proposition in what it offers to the customers. Is it able to tempt those F1 fans through news events or social media engagements around F1 during the off season? That will be interesting to see. And because this deal is starting in 2026 and the season, F1 season, is underway, let's see how whether Apple talks about how their subscriber numbers go up or down, especially during the season and after the season. That will be an important data point which I, for one, will be looking at. And if there are any interesting insights, you can be sure that I will be sharing them here. That definitely means that if that is something you would want to know about, you should definitely subscribe to the channel, so that if I talk about F1 again, or Apple or F1's deal again and how it shapes up over time, give this channel a subscribe, turn the notifications on, and you will definitely be notified when the next video comes up. Now that we understand what's in it for Apple, what's in it for F1, we have to look at the industry at large. If this deal works, we could see a fundamental shift in how global sports streaming continues, and those conventional TV cables are definitely, those TV cable broadcasters are definitely at risk, and they would view this deal as a direct threat to their revenue sources. Now, whether they partner with streaming giants, they work in collaboration, whether that is an avenue that they explore to save this threat to their business, or do they not innovate? Later on in this series, Business Acumen with MMS, probably the next episode I will do Netflix and Blockbuster. That will be a classic master case on how, when companies fail to innovate, they are reluctant to innovate, they risk falling into oblivion. So it will be interesting how these TV cable operators and broadcasters, your conventional prime players of this space, how they respond to this, how they react to this, what's their next move. And that can definitely be something that we cover on this show, on this channel later on. But let's have a look at how that unravels over time. Yeah, sports streaming could potentially be normalized as tune into Apple TV, becoming as common as tune in on cable. Younger, more global audiences will be engaged, especially in the US, through this deal where F1 historically had limited penetration. For Apple, advertising is a new revenue stream, and that is a possibility. They can sell merchandise, as I talked about earlier. They have the option to sell data-driven services, enhanced fan experiences offerings, your ARs, VR headsets, your behind the scenes, mini documentaries. There's an ample array of opportunities that stem out of this deal. And as I talked in the very beginning, it's trillion-dollar market cap companies like Apple, they do not rely on a single product or service to become the giants that they are. Behind every deal, not only does a lot of thought go into it, but a single deal is uh, a step into the door, and that deal then it then paves the way for many other possibilities, many other revenue streams. And many of these opportunities there will be opportunity to collaborate with other companies, there will be opportunities to launch new services, to launch new products, new experiences. And as I talked about earlier, the end objective would be that the customer that has come in because of this deal sticks around, and they then have to proactively work on their customer value proposition to not just engage the customer, to tempt them to increase their share of wallet. Whatever they're spending, Apple would want to win more out of those customers. Now we have to understand that this isn't just a win for Apple of F1. It could reshape the entire media sports tech ecosystem. Sports rights may shift aggressively towards direct to consumer streamers. Now they could bundle streaming, live sports, plus they have their ecosystem advantages for a company like Apple, and collectively these could become their competitive moats. And on the other end, for advertisers and sponsors, as opposed to your conventional broadcasters working with tech platforms, these streaming players like Apple, Netflix, Disney, one of the biggest advantages is that these tech companies, when hosting customers and audiences on their native platforms, they have a far deeper understanding of user demographics, of user behavior, and that in turn allows these businesses to have more precise targeting towards these customers. So as opposed to generic advertising spends on these tech platforms, because of the deeper understanding of user behavior, deeper understanding of consumer demographics, the businesses that then engage with streaming players like Apple here, they'll be able to precisely target the exact customer profiles that they want to address. And that then allows Apple not just another revenue stream, but for the businesses that are engaged in proactively spending their advertising budgets within the domain of live sports streaming. This deal is one of a kind in terms of generating buzz, hype, and excitement. Businesses themselves would now be anticipating and expecting a higher ROI for whatever they're spending on sports streaming around the world. Yeah. Beyond this, Apple then also has the opportunity for digital sponsorships, for in-stream ads, and as mentioned, merchandising before, brand activations. And for the global sports ecosystem at large, because of F1's growing base and Apple's global standing as a trillion-dollar market cap giant, more global fans get exposure to F1, potentially increasing demand, merchandise sales, and local events, races, and fan events. Sports leagues will increasingly value digital plus the global footprint over traditional regional broadcasting deals. And this is where I am potentially seeing a paradigm shift. And as I talked about earlier, it will be interesting to see how this deal unravels. If Apple can showcase a large rise in its subscriber base, primarily attributed to this deal to the F1 fans within the US, this will pave way for many other streaming players to proactively jump on such deals. There are some risks associated with this, and we will talk about this later on in the video as well. Yeah. In the comment section below, before we move on to the risks, in the comment section below, you can let me know if you're from the US, are you a subscriber on any of Apple services, how you are seeing this deal, and if you're from any other part of the world, is this a deal that you would like to see in your part of the world, in your country where you reside? And let's have a discussion about what you think about this deal in general. Is this a bold bet that Apple has made in the right direction, or do you think this is too large of a risk and maybe not the right time to make this move? I'd be excited to see what you have to see. So use the comment section below and let me know. Let's move on to the risks that are associated with this deal. Now we have to understand that $750 million over a 5-year time horizon is definitely a big amount, and such a big investment does carry risks with it. There's the risk of subscribers cannibalization. So subscribers, they might already be subscribers of the service, and they might be getting F1 as an added add-on, not being an incremental customer. And then there's also the risk of those being incremental customers then unsubscribing once the season is on. So how Apple is able to balance the two will be important to view. And again, like I said earlier, the gap between how Apple performs, or its subscriber base numbers metrics perform during the course of the season versus after the season will be something very interesting to look at. It will be a data point to look at. Yeah. Now, some viewers might also be resistant to streaming only models. Some fans may prefer traditional broadcast or dislike paywalls, free versus paid inconsistencies. At the same time, costs overrun. $150 million per year is significant. If subscriber uptake lags, the return on investment for Apple may definitely erode. And that is when the pressure goes up, and people start to question. I called this a genius move earlier. I called this a brilliant business move earlier. But if the metrics do not support it, if the data points do not back that up, then pressure will definitely rise. And when you're putting in the big bucks behind any business move out there, you need those metrics to back it up. You need that momentum, because if this is a 5-year deal, let's not forget, they would want year one to at least show the promise that this is bringing in new customers, and not just bringing in, but the ecosystem at large is able to engage and hold on to that, engage and hold on to those customers. And I think this is not just important for Apple as a company that made this move, but for the industry at large. Many other players would now be looking at this with scrutiny, whether sports streaming is the right bet to play on, to jump on right now. At the same time, there's the risk of content and production quality. Streaming live sports globally is definitely challenging. You have your latency issues, there are broadcast right obstacles, there are rights clearances, geo blocking. Now, if at any of these levels, if execution falters, reputational damage is definitely on the cards, and that could lead to churn of customers. In addition to that, regulatory or competitive pushback. Legacy broadcasters, sports federations, or regulators may react to this. And even competitors may bid aggressively for other sports, raising the rights cost across the board. And that is definitely one of the risks, because if everyone wants to scoop it up, and let's say everyone, as I also talked about earlier, that it's not just the contractual value at hand that Apple will be looking to generate. So, for example, Apple will not just be looking at this that we want to make $750 million from purely subscribers. No, it will be the overall impact that this deal is able to generate. And maybe Apple goes on to break even at this deal, but then maybe Netflix is ready to lock in a deal like this at a loss. Maybe Amazon's Prime service is willing to lock in a deal like this at a massive loss. And someone like Amazon with their reach might say that we'll send you F1 merch with our Prime service 2 days at your doorstep. So this could get quite brutal, especially if the numbers support in terms of the subscriber intake, in terms of customers coming into the system. Other giants who are looking into this deal, it might be very competitive. It might get very competitive, and the costs, the whole deal at large, might not be as lucrative as it might be for now, Apple potentially. To sum it all up, Apple's F1 deal is more than a sports license. It's a strategic content play aimed at cementing lifelong subscribers, deepening the ecosystem lock-in, and redefining sports consumption. If they deliver high-quality streaming, cross-platform integration, and global fan engagement, this deal could become a template for how technology companies and legacy sports leagues collaborate in the digital age. But like we talk about the risks, success is not guaranteed. There are many risks associated with this, but then the upside is very tempting. And that is the beauty of how these big players operate. These big industry changing, these redefining industry norms, these players, they take those big bets. They take these risks because the upside is incredible. The upside is tempting enough for them to take that bet. Apple did not become a $1 trillion market cap company by playing it safe. When Steve Jobs said the infamous line of when he showcased the iPhone, that was an industry shift, a paradigm shift. Could this sports streaming deal with F1 be a similar paradigm shift? Time will tell, but it definitely looks promising. There's a lot of value in it for Apple, for F1, for businesses at large who will engage with both of these companies. And let's see how this unravels over time. I, for one, am definitely excited to see how this deal plays out over time. And if we see any key metrics around this, do let me know in the comments if you would want me to do a follow-up episode on this. I hope you find this video insightful. I hope you want to see more content like this. Show your appreciation, like this video, share this within your network, and definitely subscribe to the channel, because it is your appreciation that will tell me our content is in the right direction. This is something that you want to see more of, and we will definitely then deliver what the fans, what the audience ask for. Without further ado, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found this insightful, and I will most definitely see you on the next one. Thank you and take care.